Yes, people, 10 o'clock Monday night, it's grounded football. It's not just grounded football, it's Liverpool grounded football. I'm joined by four guests this evening, two stalwarts of grounded football, and two guys who've not been on before. So, first of all, good evening to Adam. As you would know, the Southern Scouts from the Red Sea podcast. How you doing, buddy?
Yeah, I'm really well, mate. Thanks for having me on. I'm looking forward to it.
No problem, mate. You and I, veterans, are doing pods together, aren't we? We've done
Yeah,
more than we care to remember, haven't we? And
agreed.
someone on the flip side of that, Connor, I think we've shared a couple of pods together, mate. I think we shared one on one of Doug's shows not so long ago. Good to see you, as ever, in the corner of your room with your poster behind you, mate. I love that. That's cool, that, mate. It's quality. How are you, buddy? You all right?
I'm doing fantastic, thank you, mate, and thanks for inviting me on. Yeah, to be fair, I always got to remind people that Liverpool did win the Premier League, even though we couldn't celebrate it.
Yeah, exactly right, mate. So it would be wrong to do it now, though, wouldn't it? To get the
Oh,
replica trophy out and go and do a parade around Liverpool, it just wouldn't work, would it? I think we missed the moment, didn't we? It's past. And to my two regular guests, Doug, how are we? You good?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good, mate. I'm tired, like Connor. I've just finished work, so you guys will need to provide a bit more energy for me to feed off. But that's cool. You always do. And then finally, because you were late, Rack, I'll come to you finally, mate. Give you a chance to catch your breath. How you doing, buddy?
Yeah, not too bad, Steve. Not too bad. Unlike you, I'm straight after this. I'm about to start doing some work because I had a little bit of an impromptu nap earlier this evening. So, yeah. But I'm ready for this, so I'm fresh.
What is an impromptu nap when you should be at work? I need to know what this is. I'd get fired for that, mate.
No. I was up early and I had loads of errands to run and stuff to sort out, and got home and I just kind of like was sitting on the bed and fell asleep. And an hour and a half later, yeah, it is what it is.
I know.
Disapproving shake of the head from Steve there.
I thought better of you, mate. I really did. People are paying you a salary to do that, fella. You know what I mean? Stealing a living springs to mind, doesn't it? Right. So we'll get into the pod, guys, and obviously the first place to go is the Leeds game overview. What was on paper supposed to be a tricky game, but as everybody's finding out this season, Leeds isn't really a tricky game at the moment. And after the chanting that the fans made, and I think it is worth a mention, I hope they have a few more tricky games that disappear down the trapdoor, because to be brutally honest with you, that kind of thing doesn't belong in top flight football. I'm not condoning it when our fans do it. I think it's disgusting. Anybody that speaks to me about it gets told exactly that. So I wanted to put that out there just before the show started. There is no place for that in what is supposed to be sportsmanship. There really isn't. So I hope Mr. Bielsa and his boys disappear back to where they belong, mate, because we don't need that top flight football in this country. Anyway, that's my rant over. We'll move on. So I'll come to you, Adam, first of all, mate. Thoughts on the game, how you felt going into the game, and obviously how the game unfolded in front of your eyes, please.
Yeah, so there was that kind of weird run up to the game, wasn't there? When could the Brazilians feature, could they not? So I was thinking, even if they could, were Liverpool preparing for them to play, or preparing for an alternative? You know, were we practicing with maybe Kelleher in goal leading up to the game? But luckily they were past available and they both started. So that was a real positive for me. I predicted a 2-1 win. I thought it would be a hard-fought game. You know, last season's game there was pretty difficult and disappointing at the end. But no, I mean, you know, 20 minutes in, you get the lead. 50 minutes, you get the second. And yeah, obviously right at 90, you get the third. So 3 really spread out goals. But obviously the game was marred, really, wasn't it, by young Harvey's injury, really.
Pretty good synopsis there. I'll come to you, Connor, on that, because obviously the Harvey Elliott thing overshadows the game. A game in which Mo Salah scored his 100th goal for Liverpool, and you know, it would have been nice for us to enjoy that and celebrate that. But unfortunately, we are faced with the long-term injury. It's a dislocated fracture, which probably is as complicated as it gets in terms of ligament damage and all of that stuff. So I would be surprised if he played again this season. Just your thoughts on the challenge itself. We'll all touch on this, but Connor, I just want to hear from you as to whether you think, what did you make of the challenge? First of all, when you saw it in real time, and now you've had time to sleep on it, what's your thoughts?
So when it happened, I was first of all like surprised, I think, as everyone else was. Like, just it didn't look, you know, the leg breaker tackle, and then of course obviously the aftermath happened and so forth. And looking, you know, I haven't seen that many of a replay. I've seen, you know, before the tackle happens, and not afterwards. And it's just one of those scissors tackles. It's not malicious. But it's not good in that aspect of things. I've seen plenty of people questioning whether or not it's a red card. I think it's very similar to Andre Gomez and Heung-min Son, where there's no malicious there whatsoever, but he's injured the player. He's, for me, I don't think you can not give a red card to someone that's broken someone's leg, then practically, as we know now, fractured it. So because I see many people, and I've even compared this as well, where they think Cooper and Sadio Mane, I think 10-15 minutes later it was the same sort of challenge, but Mane got back up and carried on with the game. So for me, I think it was a red card. I'm gutted for Harvey Elliott because, like you said, mate, it's on one side, we should be celebrating the 3-0 win. We should be celebrating Mo Salah getting 100 Premier League goals. But it was massively overshadowed by Harvey Elliott because for, someone that's 18 years of age coming in to a Liverpool midfield that's, he's practically stopping the likes of Thiago, Jordan Henderson starting, games week in, week out, and proving that he deserves to be there as well. He doesn't look out of place in a Liverpool midfield, which has, won a Premier League, won Champions League. We all know that. And he's just, carried himself so correctly. And you just wish it, you wish it didn't happen to anyone else, but especially not Harvey, because he's going to be out now for 6 months, I think is the worst case scenario. But, it's going to take a lot longer with him, gaining the trust back, gaining, the strength back up in his leg. So I just wish it couldn't have happened to someone that was so promising this season.
Totally agree. Doug, I can see you nodding in agreement with Connor's comments. It's a reckless challenge, isn't it? He's not in control of it. Now, my understanding of the game of football is that if you can't make contact with the ball, then you shouldn't be challenging for it. And he's got no hope in hell of getting to that ball. It's really, really reckless. Were you surprised it was a red card? Because there's quite a lot of people. I mean, there's even one Liverpool fan calling for him to be jailed. I don't know if you've seen LFC Sonny's comments on the terrace, mate. You just have to sit and laugh at that. But quite frankly, mate, what was your thoughts of the challenge? Again, similarly, first of all, and then retrospectively.
You're muted.
Mike's muted. Oh, I've just done a Jack Mac here on our show corner. I'm going to be honest. At the time, I thought that it wasn't a good challenge, and then when you see like Salah immediately saying, "Oh, get the medical staff," I knew immediately it was a really, really bad injury. He's not gone purposely to hurt the player as well, but Connor does a very good point about Andre Gomez. I mean, Son was distraught when he was sent off for the challenge on Gomez. I really like what Virgil van Dijk actually did there. He actually spoke to Struijk, said there's no malice in the challenge. I think the referee should have probably stopped play immediately. I think that's the one thing you could say about that. But it's just rotten luck, because Harvey Elliott has been one of our best players this season by none, and he will come back fitter. He will come back stronger, and I think he'll come back more healthier from it.
A bit of a learning curve for him, because this won't be the first time he has to ride a heavy challenge. Unfortunately, it is what we're seeing in the game, this sort of letting it go type of thing. Tarkowski's absolutely sorted with Richarlison out this evening as well, mate, which I'm sure, given all things being equal, there's nobody in this room there's a problem with Richarlison getting some of his own medicine. But at the end of the day, these are these guys' careers, and it doesn't matter who it is, no one wants to see broken legs and feet aiming the wrong way and stuff like that, do they? So coming to you, Rack, it's a bit of a conundrum for Klopp now, because I think Harvey Elliott's been sewing the game together, knitting the bits and pieces together between the sort of workhouse midfield and the front men really well. His ability to let the ball go at exactly the right time. makes me wonder whether Klopp's going to have to rethink a little bit of the shape of the side because as it was pointed out previous to speaking to you, he's keeping Thiago out, he's keeping Henderson out, he's keeping Oxlade-Chamberlain out, he's keeping Keita out. Kid's 18 years old and has played a dozen games in the Championship. It's not an exaggeration to say he's had a hell of an impact on the side. I've thought about it, so you may have. What do we do now? Because that's a big piece of the jigsaw for this season gone missing.
Yeah, look, it's difficult to say right now. The logical side of my brain says that it will probably revert to Henderson because that's the role that that's the position he's been playing. I think Harvey Elliott interprets it slightly differently, and actually he's been a breath of fresh air in that position. And yeah, you're absolutely right. He's kept Hendo out. He when Hendo came in last week, he ended up playing in an unfamiliar position on the left-hand side as opposed to that space. And the combination between Trent, Salah, and Harvey has been brilliant. I mean, the fact we call him Harvey as opposed to Elliot kind of says how well he's integrated into the team. The club, obviously, is a Liverpool fan and all that kind of stuff. So we've all kind of taken him to our hearts a little bit. Yeah, I expect Hendo to come back in for the majority of games. It's a real shame for Elliot because he was having a material impact in the Premier League from the very moment that he's come into Liverpool side. And actually, let's not be, he made his debut in the Premier League for Fulham, and he was playing well even when a couple of years ago when he was playing for Fulham when he was like 16 odd. So. He's clearly talented, and it's just a real shame. But I guess the positive, one of the things, I broke my leg playing football when I was 25 years old, and it was a triple leg break. So I've got some kind of empathy or sympathy with his position. The fact that he's taken it so well, and there's obviously stuff's appeared on social media, Instagram, and all that kind of stuff. Shows that hopefully he's mentally strong enough to be able to get over that side of things quite quickly, because that sometimes can be the thing that holds people's full recovery back. But yeah, he's made of sterner stuff. So good luck to the kid.
Totally agree. And Connor, just coming to you on, Rax made a very good point there. The stuff emanated out of social media, including his own comments, where he's actually said he didn't think it was malicious and he didn't think it was a red card. I think he's being quite magnanimous in that situation because he might have looked at it, but in real time, it is all of those things. It's a dangerous challenge, it's a reckless challenge. How big is the fact he's at Liverpool Football Club and he's got the likes of James Milner, Virgil van Dijk, Joe Gomez, who've got A, professionalism, B, some experience of serious injuries. How big an impact does that have on an 18-year-old who's got a pretty tricky road ahead of him?
It's a big impact, isn't it, mate? I think just first of all, his comments already on, I think mainly Instagram, just the maturity about him already for someone that's 18 years of age. I think we've all watched, Virgil van Dijk and Joe Gomez speak about how, you go into a very dark place when you're on the sidelines for a long period of time. And I think that is what Liverpool and, like players you mentioned, Jordan Henderson, James Milner, Virgil van Dijk, they're all going to have to help him through that. And I think Harvey will do well with that by himself because I think he has the maturity. I think he's already, looking forward to the next phase, the operation that's meant to be happening tomorrow. And then, where do I go next from there? I think he's already at that mindset already, which is a good sign, I think. But it is, when he is around that Christmas period and around that busy period where he's like, I could have been in the middle of the park by playing, in Premier League games and Champions League games, and I'm here trying to work on my leg. I think that will be the difficult part of it. But I think he'll manage to cope with it by himself. But I think he'll, like you said, mate, I think he'll have plenty of encouragement from other players as well.
I think the one, I'm not medical man by any stretch of the imagination, but I, like Rack, suffered an injury. Mine was a knee ligament injury at sort of 35, which brought to the end of my career, if you like. The fact they can operate within 72 hours means that the swelling's gone down sufficiently enough to start a procedure. That can only be good news, really, can't it? If you're talking ruptured ligaments and all that stuff, I didn't drive 6 weeks. I was on crutches for 10. And then through physio twice a week. I nearly had to have reconstructive surgery. So it's quite good that we're not at that stage with him. So that bodes well. So yeah, you're quite right, mate. He's got a bit of a journey ahead of him. Just want to come to you, Adam, just on a positive note, because obviously, guys, we could sit here with long faces all night and talk about Harvey. It is what it is. It's tragic. He will get over it, and he'll come back stronger for having to go through that experience. But the big positive for me, Adam, is, and I've not spoken to you about this because we've not spoken for a little while. We brought Virgil back into the side, and the football world held its breath and thought, what's he going to be? Is he going to be the player that he was? Is he going to be a pale shadow of the man? Is he going to be somewhere in between? I think it's fair to say he's back, and he's doing what we know that he does as well as ever. You wouldn't know he missed almost a full season. 1 goal conceded, Adam. How good does that make you feel? And talk to me a little bit about Virgil van Dijk and his partner, please.
Oh, like he says, I love clean sheets, man. That's what he does, right? So 3 out of 4. You know, I mean, the Chelsea goal was a strange one. It is a good goal, but it's almost a lucky goal as well. You don't see that kind of looping header from a player like Havertz from that kind of position very often. But yeah, other than that, you know, it's been solid, and you know the difference that he makes, not just in terms of his footballing ability, but his presence. You know, I mentioned it when he walked out against Burnley to James, and I said, you know, that those Burnley strikers, they're just 20-30% their heads drop because they see that Van Dijk's lining up against them. You know, he's got the strength and the size to deal with an Ashley Barnes or Chris Wood, and he's got the pace as well to get out of trouble and the level head to raise everybody else's game around him. And you know, there was a big discussion, wasn't there? Through pre-season, we saw Kanate and Matip play together quite a lot, and we thought, you know, will they integrate Van Dijk in sort of end of September, start of October? But he's gone with the 2019 Matip Van Dijk combination that was so successful, and they've not really put a foot wrong, have they? They've looked really solid, and you know, Trent and Robertson as well, they're starting to be a little bit more vocal, especially Trent, you know, growing and not necessarily an international captain, but kind of controlling that back line a little bit more, not just looking forward. But I think the absence of Van Dijk, Gomez and Matip meant that Robertson and Trent had to take a little bit more responsibility back there to, you know, for the line and the offside and the defensive responsibilities. So they've almost had to step up in that role because of the absence of those two. And now they're back. It's a really solid back four, and there's kind of everything in that back four for me. You've got experience, you've got pace, you've got quality, you've got speed, you've got creativity. But they've also got that defensive nous of keeping a clean sheet. And you know, even against Norwich, you know, you could see how much it meant. You know, 3-0 up, and they're still stopping that goal going in and keeping it at 0. So yeah, very confident start. You know, only really that one black mark so far. I think we're all a bit disappointed not getting a goal against the 10-man Chelsea, but you know, we've won 3 out of 4 with a draw. It's looking pretty rosy. So keep it coming, really, unbeaten, and see what we can do.
Absolutely. I think, guys, a little bit of homework for you guys to do. Go and try and find the Havertz video and watch it in slow motion. It comes off the hump on the bottom of his neck. It doesn't even come off his head. So go and watch it. Promise you, it's not a well-directed header. It's a freak goal. It comes off him at a certain trajectory and goes. I'm convinced it goes, but check it out, guys, and let me know what you think. Doug, Joel Matip, what a guy. Have you seen, not since Alan Hansen have we seen a guy come out of defence with the ball like that? I mean, look at the goal. What on earth was he doing on the edge of the box playing give and goes? I mean, you talk to me about Joel Matip.
Oh, I mean, it just reminds me of the GIF from the Hobbit where someone asks Bilbo Baggins where he's going, and he's like, "I'm going on an adventure," because I have no idea what he was doing there. But no, I thought he started the season really, really well, and he is actually Virgil's best partner at the back as well. I think Matip's only lost 1 game since he started for Liverpool, which is mental as well. But I think the thing is with Matip, I think it's all about keeping him fit now. Will he be rested for Milan? I think that's another question, really. I'm not sure he can play 3 games in a week. That's my main worry. But Mata has been superb this season so far, and I will say he's going to score very soon because he is getting into the right positions and he goes up for corners. I think he will get his head on one of them eventually. He's unlucky not to score against Chelsea, so I'm hopeful that he can score. But yeah, terrific start to the season, and yeah, if he keeps doing those mazy wee runs, he might actually get a few assists as well.
He's incredible, isn't it? He just seems to get his head down, and he's got a swivel of the hips and a drop of the shoulders. Rival Ryan Giggs, hasn't he? I could see him doing the goal in the semi-final against Arsenal at some point, mate, in the future, because he's got the skills, hasn't he? He's got the skills.
I'm not sure he's got the hairy chest, but yeah.
Right, well, yeah, it wouldn't work, that would it? It just wouldn't work. Coming to you, Rack, whilst I've got you, that those two really have nailed down the centre-back positions, haven't they? So, thinking more, Joe Gomez knew that this would happen because even when Joe Gomez was fit, when Joel Matip was fit, Matip often played ahead of Gomez. I think Klopp trusts Matip's reading of the game. If that's a weakness Joe Gomez has got, that's it, and he gets out of trouble using his pace from time to time. So, is it fair to say, Rack, those two guys they're their shirts to throw away? And who do you think's third in the pecking order for if, as Doug said, I don't think Matip could or should play 3 games in a week. Who do you bring in? Do you bring in Gomez against AC Milan in a European tie, or do you bring back, or do you bring in Canate? What do you go with?
Yeah, that's a tough one. We haven't seen enough of either Gomez or Ibu to kind of make that this decision or distinction. I think obviously when Lovren was here, then Lovren was the clear 4th choice, and whether it be Matip or whether it be Gomez, they were the clear 2nd stroke 3rd choice. But Canate is obviously a slightly unknown quantity at Liverpool, and it'll be interesting to know. I can't answer that. In terms of Matip, yeah, he's definitely nailed down that second centre back berth. It's interesting because I think Klopp's always kind of given the player in possession, the player in form, the 5 players. Yeah, sorry, that's kind of throwing me.
Hassan's ruined you there, mate.
Oh, God. I think that Matip's obviously clearly the player in possession, but I wouldn't roll, for example, Gomez or even Canate the possibility of taking that over. If Matip were to get injured and Gomez gets a strong run of form, then that's possible. I mean, the season we won the Premier League, when we started the season with everybody fit, and Gomez was the centre back of choice, if I remember correctly. And I think maybe Matip took over a little bit for a few games, got injured, and then Gomez was back in as well. So yeah, I don't know. I'd actually like the Gomez Van Dyke partnership, but I mean, there can't be any complaints about Matip's performances this season. He's been immense, and arguably has been better, or at least on the same level as Van Dyke. So yeah, it is what it is. We do nothing to complain about.
Well said. It was spot on. Yeah, evening, Hassan. Thanks for calling us all frauds. We know it's true, but you don't need to remind us, mate. And I'll come to you, Connor, on the Ravi's comments on screen. Decent win, Fabinho man of the match. Having picked up a yellow card so early on, how good was Fabinho at the weekend?
Oh, he was so good, wasn't he? Like, for me, miles ahead in terms of DM in world football. I think before he signed the contract, I think Real Madrid were showing a real interest in him to be the Casemiro replacement. For me, obviously now he isn't going anywhere, and thank the Lord, because when Liverpool don't have him and Hendo is playing in the 6, you can see the difference there. Not saying Jordan Henderson can't play the number 6 role, decent. He can. Look, we won a league title with Hendo being in the 6 for two months, but Fabinho, he gives you that extra quality, doesn't he? He gives you, the brick wall that you want. He gives you the pass, even the slight run at times as well, and can, obviously score goals as well. So he's just a complete DM. And going back a little bit on the Canate situation, I think Canate is probably 3rd choice at the minute, because I just got this sad feeling that Joe Gomez is back up right back for Trent. at the moment, because I think Nico's out with an ankle problem. So I think Joe Gomez will be back up for probably the Palace game next week, sadly. But either way, I think I can't wait to see Ibu, because Liverpool, it's frightening. Liverpool, when Liverpool have centre halves, it's quite frightening what we could do. So yeah, but going back with Fabinho, what a talent, and I hope he finishes his career at Liverpool.
Interesting that you mentioned Real Madrid there. He originally went to Real Madrid as a right back, and it didn't really work out for him. So you kind of hope he hasn't got the Lukaku about him that says, I want to go back there and prove myself. Quite frankly, at the moment, they couldn't afford him anyway. He is arguably the best in his position in the world. That there'll be Chelsea fans that will tell you that there's players at their club that are on a par. I don't think there is. I think he's much more mobile than people give him credit for. Who can forget the lob wedge over the back four for Mane to score against Manchester United? He's got everything in his locker, hasn't he? He's got the lot and the thunderbolts against City and Palace. I love watching him play. I think he's pivotal to what we do, and him and Thiago works really well. So on that, Adam, thoughts on them two as a double pivot? Because obviously Harvey Elliott is not defensive or as defensively minded. He could do the Klopp system, but he's not a guy you expect to be winning 50-50 balls and winning balls in the air. So how impressed have you been with Fabinho, and in particular at the weekend? How do you see his relationship with Thiago going into the season?
Yes, it's a really good point. I mean, for me, like you say, Fabinho is the best in his position in world football. I wouldn't swap him for anybody, and I think Kante is the only one that comes close, really, on the planet. But yeah, he's got absolutely everything. You mentioned the Thunderbolt goals, and I think everybody kind of uses the term that we had no centre backs last season, but we also lost Fabinho in CDM for 2 months of the season, 3 months of the season when he became centre back. And although he was a good centre half, and I think Klopp realistically had him as an emergency fourth choice when we let Lovren go. I don't think he imagined he'd probably become the first choice centre back for a large part of the season. But he makes good tackles, and he did a good job back there. But to lose him in that position, we end up with that kind of triangle three, don't we, of Van Dijk, Matip, Fabinho, and we let Trent and Robertson become pretty much left and right wingers at times, and they become the back three together. So yeah, without him, we're a totally different team. But it's a good point you make. Henderson can play in the six, although he played it slightly differently. I don't see him as a ball-winning midfielder. He's more of a deep-lying playmaker from that position, which can work and does work against certain opposition. But I agree, we're a much better team with Fabinho in there, and I do quite like Fabinho and Henderson in the same team together. I like Henderson going forward. I think he's underrated in that position. I think he covers well when Trent goes forward on the right-hand side, and he popped up with some goals as well in recent seasons, some important ones. But I'm still not too sure with the double pivot situation. It's not something we've really played very often, and I'm not sure you need it when you've got a CDM as good as Fabinho. I think that's kind of why we've seen Thiago's minutes fairly restricted. We've seen, like you mentioned, Harvey Elliott playing ahead of him. We saw Naby Keita start the season as well, trying to find that box-to-box, someone that wants to get on the ball and get forward, and someone that mops up from the back, that kind of combination. So I don't particularly see a double pivot very often this season, maybe in the big games if we're away to a Manchester City or someone like that. But for me, I think the jury's still a little bit out on Thiago. I do think he's obviously improved. He finished last season really well, and he got a good assist at the weekend as well. But for me, we've still not quite seen the Thiago that I think we were all expecting when he came across from Bayern. He's still not coming off the pitch as man of the match yet for me, which I think a lot of us thought. A few of my friends, when we signed him, said, that's the league now. You've got him. That's the league. And I don't think he's that player yet. So I agree. I wouldn't move Fabinho for anybody in world football, but I don't see a double pivot too often this season.
Good comment. And I'm going to use go on. Can I just address this with Ryan first? Right. The reason why I'm asking to do it now because Adam makes some good points that I want to use. I don't have a Thiago agenda. At the time, I couldn't understand why we bought him, because our midfield was working with the three guys that we were using. Then we got all the injuries. The Thiago you saw last season is not the Thiago that any of us wanted to see. Thiago is not a player that can play under pressure on the stretch. When we're running back towards our goal, that's not what we brought Thiago into the side to do. We brought Thiago into the side, for me anyway, and if you guys disagree, feel free to say, to take control of games against low blocks, to take controls against games when we're like 2-0 up with 20 minutes to go. You bring him on and he just keeps the ball and passes the life out of people. He's not a guy that ever played 38 league games for Bayern Munich. He never did it. So I didn't see him doing it at Liverpool. What I will say is now he's playing alongside Fabinho, and you alluded to it in your response a second ago, Adam. He had good performances alongside Fabinho because Fabinho gives midfielders the confidence to go and do what they do. When it was, Curtis Jones, no disrespect, James Milner, you live in fear of what happens if the ball breaks down and the transition's quick, and can, in particular, James Milner deal with that? And he can't. So my view on Thiago is, what a wonderful, wonderful technical footballer. But last season, that Liverpool team was probably the last place he would have wanted to play his football, because with no shape, no central defenders, no plan, no system, all he did was try and play on the stretch, and it really doesn't suit him. Rack, you were going to jump in there, mate. Feel free, buddy. Thanks for that.
Yeah, look, I mean, I'm loath to agree with Jamie Redknapp. That's not something I'd like to make a habit of, but I think he actually, he expressed it very accurately yesterday. Thiago, I thought he was brilliant. I think he was brilliant last 10 games of last season, and in his first kind of reintroduction alongside Fabinho this season, I thought he was magnificent yesterday, and when you talk about it being demoralising, when you try and pressure the guy, Leeds were trying to press us from the get-go, but when you've got that cool head around that can play a simple pass, or just has that split second extra composure to pick someone out when he's being surrounded by players, especially when you're playing against such an aggressively pressing team, if you can break that press, then it gives you so much joy. I mean, in terms, obviously, we missed quite a few chances yesterday, but we had the second highest XG of any team in the season so far, 4.4 from what I saw on Understat. So I think the only team that's bigger had more was Man City when they beat Arsenal 5-0, when obviously Arsenal only had 10 men for one of the halves there. So I thought that Thiago was brilliant, and I'm really looking forward to it. I think for me, it should be a certain starter alongside Fabinho in central midfield, and then obviously I expect it to be Hendo, but it'll be interesting to see how. At the end of the day, competition for places is important, but for me, Thiago is one of the first names on the team sheet now, and I'm really excited to see how the Fab Thiago link up progresses.
I think we're all in agreement. Doug, have a look at that quote there, mate, and tell me your thoughts, because I find that an interesting question, and be interested to know what you think of that.
I mean, how many shots did Mane need yesterday? 10 before he scored. At least we're creating chances, you could have to say, but wasting. I mean, there was one yesterday where Jota should have just played a simple ball to Mane. It's a simple tap-in, but played a ball where Mane can't really react, and obviously goes over the bar. Yes, it's a bad miss, but I can understand from where Mane's point of view was. But yeah, it is a bit of a concern. But I do like the fact that we are actually creating chances. We do need to take more of them. I do agree. But at least we are actually creating chances. I think Trent's created, 20 opportunities this season, which I think is more than anybody else. So you can quite clearly see that Trent put a few balls into yesterday, and we just needed someone on the end of that, and you're getting goals, but the stats don't really lie. I think we had 12 shots in the first half. I think Leeds had 2 as well. So it was just a complete dominant performance yesterday. I was a wee bit concerned at 1-0 because you always get that sense that whenever it's 1-0, if you don't take your chances, they can just go up the other end and score. And a couple of times, I mean, Rodrigo should score. Ayling, I don't know why he doesn't go with his head. He should go with his head. He goes with his knee, and it goes off the goes over the bar. And then obviously Bamford tries to chip Alisson, and Alisson isn't getting beat from 45 yards. It was a good save, to be fair, but I always felt whenever we got going, I always felt we were going to get a second or even a third. I feel when Harvey went off, I did feel we did lack a little bit of some just creativity or movement in that midfield. But at least we were still creating chances. But it is a bit of a concern. But I'm sure the goals will be there eventually.
Cool, mate. Connor, can you have a look at that question for me and give us your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think he can. The funniest thing is last year, I think all of us were pretty much looking at Ismail Assar from Watford, and we were all like, "Oh, okay, Liverpool might be going after him," and then Jota came out of nowhere with Thiago, and that was kind of a nice feeling with Liverpool and transfers, wasn't it? But he's been fantastic for Liverpool since signing last year. Being that impactful person that we've needed someone to be. We had it with Shaqiri in 18-19, and then Shaqiri again then in 19-20 a little bit, but we needed that extra person. I don't agree with that. Jota is not overrated whatsoever. He's, in my opinion, a bit underrated. In my opinion, with the fact that he can play the false nine and he can play it perfectly as well. You've seen it. Like, okay, yes, he didn't do it correctly to begin with, and yes, he is more of a left-sided player. But especially this year, if you look at a little like graphics and that, he's maturing into that false nine, and he's adding goals as well to that false nine position, which we've all been crying out for. Yes, we love Bobby Firmino. We love what he does for the Liverpool team. And taking Bobby Firmino. Yeah, I think pretty much I'd say the majority of Liverpool fans would take Bobby Firmino over Jota. But there's a time and the point where you look at it and go, Jota is the replacement for Bobby Firmino, and he's adding goals already. In my opinion, Jota could be a 20-goal striker, but he's just he just needs that extra. He needs that rhythm, doesn't he? Of being nailed on the starter, and I think that is what he is proving already this season.
I'm going to play devil's advocate a little bit. It's very hard to play as a false nine because you need to understand what's going on totally around you in terms of having a 360 awareness, and I think Bobby certainly has an edge in that regard. Right where we are now, I think Mane is more under threat than Bobby from Jota in terms of losing his shape, because obviously, and I take your points on board and you talk a lot of sense, but Mane's form is a concern. I'm going to come to you, Adam, on that one now. Obviously, we laughed because he had 10 shots and he scored one. Now, listen, if he has 11 shots and the 12th one goes in and we win 1-0, for me, he's a hero. So I'm not here that. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter how many chances he has. That he's put, like the point was made earlier, he's putting himself in the right position. He's snatching at things because he's trying too hard, because he knows he's a man out of form in terms of it's not fluid and doesn't look particularly natural to him at the moment. So everything you said, Connor's spot on. Jota is growing into an exciting player, and I totally agree with you. He will become world class under Klopp, because Klopp gets the best out of his players. Adam, who do you think Jota is a bigger threat to, Firmino or Mane?
I think both. I think we should have got.
Go on, don't sit on the fence. Give me one.
I think we should have gone for a new front player in the summer. I think we were all calling out for it. It didn't necessarily have to be Erling Haaland, but I think we needed a new number 9. I think the false 9 for me has kind of had its day. And I know we've had a good start to the season, but I think we're going to come up short in the league because of that striker. We're relying on Salah too much. And again, the Champions League, I think we're going to be not quite enough to get over the line, because we're not quite got that kind of striker in that position that can do that job. But for me, I said last season, everybody said, oh, it was a COVID season and, give Mane another chance. But, it was it's a big risk to just expect him to just get his form back from the year we won the league. There was no guarantee that he would. And, I know he got his goal yesterday, but he's kind of carried on from where he left off last season. A lot of chances missed, a lot of wasted opportunities. And, what did he get last season? 10 league goals or something like that. It's not good enough. It's not anywhere near good enough, really. And you're looking at Salah to get 25, 30 goals a season. So I think we need to relieve the pressure a little bit on him, and he is the only world-class player in that front four for me, Mo Salah. But I think Firmino has not really been at the level that, since 2018 when we got to the Champions League final, and I think they all scored 10 goals in that Champions League run. I don't think Firmino and Mane have hit those levels really. Mane slightly when we won the league, of course, but I think Firmino's been on a downward trajectory for a while now, and I think Mane's just started as well. So for me, I think Jota comes in, and I think he's better on the left than as a number 9. I want to see an actual striker to play up front as on the last man. You see Lukaku come in, you see Ronaldo come in. These guys are going to be right up against the centre half, not dropping into the false 9 position, and I want to see Liverpool do the same thing. I think Firmino's knocking on the door of 30 now. I think it's time to change it up and go with Jota left, Salah right, and a new striker, really.
Thanks for that, mate. Rack, just coming to you. Do we need a number 9 in the vein of a Haaland? Now, we know Haaland's silly money, and I still don't think the £66 million release clause is going to be a thing next year, because I can't see Dortmund put themselves in a position where they potentially lose 100 million based on what they could have got from this summer. I think there'll be a change in his contract, a pay rise, and then a bigger clause inserted. Do you agree with Adam that we need more of a traditional number 9, that, these balls Trent's putting in? I mean, if you think about that and you think about some of the strikers up around, could you imagine Fernando Torres playing off Trent's service? It would be insane, wouldn't it? So is that a valid point? Is that something we should be addressing in January, or certainly in the summer?
I mean, look, there's more than one way to skin a cat, and I don't necessarily think a traditional number 9, whether that's a big man up front or some other form is necessary. As long it's all about making the system work. I don't think the false 9 is necessarily seen its day. If we get, I think strength, we need strength in depth, and I agree 100%. We should have brought an attacker in. I was calling for an attacker to kind of come in the summer, and I was disappointed that didn't happen. I thought it would happen. But yeah, I mean, in terms of the profile of the striker, I think the difficulty is there's not many players who can play a false 9, and there's even fewer who can play a false 9 effectively. If we play traditional number 9, that may have an impact, a knock-on effect in terms of the numbers that we get as a team. I mean, one of the things that Juventus fans have said about Ronaldo is when Ronaldo came in and he occupied that traditional number 9 role when he joined Juve, the actual total number of goals that were scored by Juve didn't actually increase very much or at all. It pretty much stayed the same. So I trust Klopp and the recruitment team to bring the right person in, but like I said, there's more than one way to skin a cat, and if we get someone else in to play that number 9 role, whether it be a false 9 or traditional number 9, I presume that person will have all the technical and tactical attributes to be able to play that role effectively.
Well said. I do think the system is king, and finding the right players for the system. We do play a profile, and we all know this, and he won't just go out and buy someone for the sake of buying someone. There's a lad who went to Leicester, Daka, and also we should have bought him. They probably profiled him and looked at what he does, where he does his recovery, when he makes his runs, his stats, and thought that actually doesn't fit into the system. You look back years gone by. Go on.
I've heard some people say, and there were links to him, but there were some people who said Leicester have beaten us to him, and I think that's pretty preposterous, to be honest, because I don't think we ever really showed real interest in going out and buying him. He may have been on our horizons, if you like, or but we monitor lots of players. It'd be nice if we actually bought some sometimes, but yeah.
Premier League.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd be old enough to remember Dean Saunders, who came to Liverpool with a glowing reputation, and we expected so much of him, and was amazing with the ball in front of him, but absolutely dreadful when with his back to goal. That's the reason why player profiling is as important as it is, to get the right player, because we don't know whether Daka or any one of these guys, these young players, are capable of playing in our system. It would be remiss of us to go and spend £30 million on a player we can't use, to bring him on for the last 15 minutes to try and do something different. that's just paying extra money for a second Origi for me. It's got to be the right player at the right time, hasn't it? Okay, Adam, I know you're laughing. Nobody's that bad. That's a fair comment. So I think the recruitment is really key. So coming away from that, I want to just have a quick look at the status quo, and I'll come to you, Doug. It's the usual suspects at the top of the league, and I don't know how, but Manchester United, I think on goals scored, are top of the league. It's we never used to do that in the Premier League. It was always on goal difference. We've all got 8, so technically in years gone by, it would be Chelsea would be top. But Rack, are you going to say something?
Yeah, I think it is initially goal difference and then goal scored. So yeah, as long as I can remember, that's been the way it was. But maybe I'm mistaken. I'm not sure. But yeah, goal difference definitely does take precedence. But I think we're all on +8. So therefore,
just before I come to you, Doug, are we in for Jude Bellingham? I don't think we are at £80 million, guys, which is the figure that's been thrown around. Have we not learnt anything from the summer that they fill up the vending machine in the canteen and that's it? That's all you're getting, guys. You're not getting anything else. So that's more of a pipe dream. It would be fantastic, but unless they go completely against their operating the way they operate the club, I can't see it. So back to the question, Doug. Obviously, it's the usual suspects at the top. Do you still see it as a 4-horse race, and do you think those 4 clubs will stretch away?
I think it will be a 4-horse race. In all honesty, I think the top 4 is probably set to be the top 4 now. I mean, look, I think Leicester and Tottenham, I mean, they are definitely, challengers for that top 4. I was about to say Arsenal, but they're well down, so I won't even say them anyway. I just feel that the other 4 have just too much quality for the others. I really do. And actually, I think if you look at it, I think we now know that Chelsea are going to be a threat. I think Man City are going to be a threat, even with the lack of striker. And Man United got Ronaldo. Ronaldo will score goals for Man United. And I mean, people were saying yesterday, I think it was that Ronaldo was transformed United's obviously scoring goals, which I mean, yes. But if you actually look at it, the better debut at the weekend is probably Odsonne Edouard, coming on after 27 seconds. First touch and second touch was a goal. Ronaldo's 2 finishes. I'm not putting any hate on Ronaldo or anything like.
Tap in merchant, mate.
I'm not putting any hate on Ronaldo, but let's be honest, Freddie Woodman should do better for both goals. I mean, the first one he just parries it straight to him. And then the second one, he basically he opens his legs. He should do a lot better. But no. I think it's going to be the same top 4 that it was last season. But it's going to be interesting what order it's going to be, I think. But if we can stay there, for as long as we can, then this title race will go down to the very end, I think. I think it's going to be one of those seasons that it's the most competitive Premier League season I can remember anyway.
Certainly is so far. I'm just going to go around the room and answer this. I just want an in or an out or on the fence from you. Because it's too good a question to ignore. And it's topical because obviously this subject never goes away. So I'll start with you, Rack. In, out or on the fence?
Look, I can't give such a simple answer for this one, I'm afraid, just because, look, in general, I've been supportive of what the owners have done for the club over the years. I think the summer was a missed opportunity, and it has knocked my confidence in them to some extent. But I think they've been instrumental in bringing us back to the top. They've obviously made mistakes along the way, and they're by no means perfect, but I have certain criteria that I want to adhere to in terms of owners of the club, and I'm not looking for some oligarch to buy the club and spend a gazillion pounds on every name under the sun. I believe in a self-sustaining model, but obviously we needed to strengthen some. And the question I have is that every other club strengthened, and I don't normally look at every other club, but and it may well be a Klopp issue. There's no clarity, and we're not going to get clarity on the situation because no club comes out and explains the inner workings of how they work. But I did think that if Arsenal, for example, can go out and spend 150 million, I expected us to be able to spend some money. And Konate came in, but obviously we recouped a lot of money from outgoing, or some money, or his fee from outgoing. So it was a bit disappointing. But yeah, sorry, that's my long-winded answer.
Rack, all I can say is as eloquent as ever, my friend. You'll never let me down. Never let me down.
I'll do
Doug,
my
I'm coming
best,
to
Steve.
you.
I'll do my best.
Well, you never disappoint, mate. That's why we have you on every week. Doug, same thing with you, buddy. In, out, or on the fence?
What I will say to this is be careful what you wish for, because we could be back to the Hicks and Gillette days, and they were some of the darkest days as a Liverpool fan. So, FSG have made, I think, a lot of mistakes, but they have made some successes as well. Klopp, for example, they brought Jurgen Klopp after Brendan Rodgers. I mean, they deserve a pat on the back for that. The Super League, I can understand. People will obviously want them out because of that. Trying to trademark the term Liverpool, that's just a no-no. Furlough, absolute no-no as well. I think they have been good for us as well. I'm neither in nor out. I'm probably sitting on the fence, if I'm being honest. I can't really give a definitive answer.
Okay, so that's on the fence. I'll do it for you. Okay. I'll tell you what it was. It was on the fence. Connor.
Yeah, I'm definitely on the fence. Definitely on the fence.
Do you know what, Connor? I come to you knowing there's really not much more you can add to what has already been said.
No.
I'm surprised Doug managed that much after Rack's very conclusive answer. Yeah, coming to you, buddy.
To be fair,
out or on the fence?
I was massively FSG out after the Super League. I was so frustrated after that. But of course, with a calm head, you look at it at two sides. Like Doug said, they've done so many good stuff, so many bad stuff. For me, FSG have been screaming out since about 2018 for an investor. They're not looking for a 50-50 partnership. They're not looking for anyone to take over the club. They've rejected a £3 billion offer, for God's sake. They're not looking for anyone to buy the club. They are looking for an investor that knows the model of FSG. You look at, I know we look at it and go, LeBron James. LeBron James bought, I think it was like 15% into FSG. He's working with them. I know that they are looking for investors, and I think until Liverpool do get that right partnership that FSG are looking for, to help the Liverpool, they've already done so many with the new training ground, main stand, and Annie Road, but they are looking for that correct investor, and until that does happen, Liverpool won't go and spend 100 million on a player. It won't. We all know this, but like the other lads have said, we never want to go back to Liverpool 2010 at all. And I think at the moment we're miles away from that, and I want to stay like that for the foreseeable future. So I'm on the fence with them, but I do think they need to hurry up with a few things.
Fair comments, mate. And finally, second to finally, because I'll have my little few pence worth as well. It would be rude not to. Adam, you've been quite vocal in terms of certainly in the transfer window. So I kind of think I know where this is going. Unleash the fury, because I know you're not impressed.
I think they sorted us out of a mess, didn't they? Like Doug mentioned, you better the devil you know, and 2010 was a absolute shambles, wasn't it? We were saved by them, and everything they said they were going to do, they did. They said 60,000 seater stadium, and once Anfield Road's done, that should be near abouts there. They said a new training ground. They said they'd win a league title, and they've done all that. And unfortunately, as Rack mentioned, Man City, Chelsea, and Man United are relentless and will continue to spend recklessly until they win the title. And there's only so much you can do. And how good a manager Jurgen Klopp is, and how good Michael Edwards has been to get the absolute max out of everything we've done. but you can't continue to fight against Roman Abramovich at the Sheikhs and Manchester United's powers of money. Eventually it's going to catch up with you. And, we saw that last season. We've got a very good 11, 12, 13 players, but when we get some key injuries, we're in trouble. So FSG have definitely been good for the 2010 to 2020, but I agree with the investment. They looked at Redbird, didn't they? Investments or wherever it was coming in to help out. But I don't know if they've maybe run their course. They're businessmen. They took over Liverpool, but we were probably worth the lowest we've ever been worth in recent times. And you now look at us, and they'd probably triple to quadruple their money they paid to buy the club. So
10 times.
Yeah.
Million.
Exactly. So
they're worth at least 3 billion now. So.
Exactly. So they need to make the decision. Are they gonna get out now and make a crazy profit, or if they're going to continue to be involved? Yes, they need that investor, and if they can't get it, maybe they need to move on and wish us luck and release us, really, so we can compete with the big boys. And I'm not saying you have to be reckless and spend crazy money, but like Rack said, Arsenal are spending 100 and something million, and they've not even been in the Champions League for 4 or 5 seasons. We're in it every year. We've won a title. We've won the Champions League. We've got Standard Chartered been paying us lots of money. We've got Nike. We've got Expedia on our sleeves. There's lots of money incoming. We're a global club, and to not spend, to spend 36 million and basically make that back on selling loan, Gruitch and Shaqiri and Wilson is pretty poor. So sometimes you need to spend money to make money. Man United made back the Ronaldo fee, I think, on the same day, didn't they? By shirt sales. So I think they could wake up and smell the coffee a little bit, and maybe a world-class signing would actually pay them more money than the actual outgoings if they thought a little bit bigger, a bigger picture.
Yeah, well put. I mean, my position on it is, when they came and took the club over, they never sat down and said, our aim is to compete with Roman Abramovich and compete with Sheikh Mansour at Manchester City in terms of going toe-to-toe trying to sign those players. So I don't get what the fume is. They never promised to do that. They've never lied to us about that. All the club development that Connor speaks around is great, but the club has paid for that because they were loans with which allegedly we were told there was no interest, but there was, but albeit very low. And in terms of the investment, Redbright invested in FSG £500 million. And FSG said that would allow Liverpool to bridge the gap on the operating costs for COVID. That doesn't include going and spending £70 million on a centre forward. That is operating costs. We lost £4.5 million every single home game at least, in terms of revenue from the club shop, from the tickets and all that stuff. So if there's been any investment in that, which I don't believe there's been a lot of that money used at all, we've tried to be self-sustainable where we can. That's what it was for. There are people like Laurie and Cole Barley Red who expected Klopp to sit there with a big 6-foot check with someone from Redbird saying, I've got £500 million to spend. That was never going to happen, was it? We need to be realistic about it. What I would say as a caveat to all of that is, football is becoming a squad game. It's no longer about the 11 players on the pitch. You look at Chelsea and you look at City, you look at Manchester United, certainly in the final third. I'm not saying the same, but their midfield's got problems, hasn't it? That's the way football's going to go. Now, I totally agree with Rack. I've got a moral compass in terms of how my football club is run, but we will all, as fans, be faced with a decision. Do we stick by our morals, which is noble and great, or do we allow the club to move in the direction other clubs are going? And if we don't allow that to happen, we may need to change our expectations in 2 or 3 years' time with the type of investment we've been looking at. And I know everybody on this pod wouldn't want that. I know everybody in this pod wants to be challenging for titles. We're lucky we've still got the core of a really strong side that knows how to win. 18 months' time, half of that team's approaching 32nd birthdays. So it is something that needs to be addressed. It is something that needs to be looked at in terms of longevity and succession planning. So we'll have the $1 million question, won't we? And it'll come up again. Do we sacrifice what the club's been built on in order to facilitate strength going forward and be able to compete? Or do we carry on as we are, knowing that we will win things infrequently because those guys will set standards we can't get to? It's really difficult. It's a really difficult one. And I'm not FSG in or out. I can see the benefits of what they've done, but I also have some concerns about what they've not done.
I think the thing is that, I mean, look, we have to spend some money, but you can bridge the gap between the huge spenders and what we spend, which is also a lot of money, by being smart. Now, the thing is with being smart is that people will look at what you're doing, look at what you've done, and then they will try and copy you and imitate you and be smarter as well. So to stay one step ahead of the competition all the time, it becomes more and more and more difficult. But it is possible. There's always good players available. There are always hidden gems available. It's just tough. And spending money similarly doesn't. I mean, you hear it from City fans a lot. Spending money doesn't guarantee you success. But obviously, if you spend 50 million on every fullback that you see, eventually one of them is going to hit. But I think there is something to be said for it's not just about spending money. I still think we don't have to go to the lengths that some of these clubs go to, but that's why I was kind of a little bit disappointed that we didn't capitalize on opportunity, because I thought maybe last summer, obviously people didn't even know when the following season was going to start, whereas this summer it seems like we're coming out of the pandemic. It's a sad thing to say, but I thought that French clubs, for example, are in huge financial difficulty, and it may have been a good time to speculate to accumulate now, because you could have probably got good prices for some of the players that are out there. So that's why I say it was a bit of a missed opportunity. But look, the club has all the information, and so if we trust the people that run the club, and I still do, then I say, look, they know the full situation. I have to leave it up to them and trust that they know what they're doing. If they don't, then obviously people will be angry, and understandably so.
That's a really good point you make about the French thing. And look at Camavinga, who's gone to Real Madrid. What they paying him on £7.86 for 52 weeks, like you do in the catalogue, because they've got no money, have they? So, you look at it and you think, where on earth have they found that money? They've got less money than we have. So it can happen, and there were some good players over there we should have taken advantage of. But that looks like it's turning a corner now, and they're going to get sorted. So you're right, we may have missed an opportunity. Connor, mate, thanks for coming on. Feel free to go as and when you want to. It's been because he just messaged to say he's going to leave shortly. So I'm not trying to get rid of him, Rack. Stop laughing. Grateful for you coming on, mate.
I'm being barred out, but no, I'm joking. Thank you for having me on.
Cool, no worries. Stay as long as you want, mate. Go whenever you need to. It's cool, mate. Thanks for coming on. I appreciate it. So, last subject of the night. This is mad. Other than a final, we've never played AC Milan in a competitive European game. That is insane, given the history of the two clubs and the fact that we've got like a dozen Champions Leagues between us. It's insane, isn't it? So, Doug, are you looking forward to the European lights on the pitch and the music playing and AC Milan lining up on the other side of the pitch?
Absolutely, yeah. It's absolutely incredible that we've never played AC Milan in the group stage. I thought we would have met them at least once, but obviously we've seen like AC Milan have had a bit of a upheaval recently as well. They've got the youngest squad in the Serie A as well. They've got a lot of young players. They've got threats like Giroud and obviously Zlatan as well. Got some very good players, Frank Kessie in midfield as well. So it's going to be a very, very tricky game. I think the one thing I can say, they've got a very inexperienced back line, but they do have Simon Kjær just in there to be a bit of experience. So they've got a bit of experience in there. They've replaced Donnarumma with Mike Maignan. I think he was at Lille last season as well. So they've got a good squad, but I feel that we can take advantage of that, and I am confident going into this game. I think AC Milan would probably not rather to play us first, but it is what it is, and I'm very excited for the game on Wednesday.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see Van Dyke versus Ibrahimovic, won't it? I mean, the guy we kind of want to make sure we get a grip of is Kessie in midfield. Frank Kessie, who scored the away goal last season at Old Trafford, and then AC Milan just kind of capitulated at home to Manchester United. So, Adam, This has been tagged a group of death by by Twitter. I really don't think it is. We really need to be getting out of that group. I fully expect us to be getting out of that group. AC Milan, in terms of the players they've lost and the players they've replaced them with, are weaker than they were last season. We know Atletico Madrid's going to be 2 tough games, but if we win the other 4, when was the last time a team didn't progress with 12 points?
No, absolutely. I mean, I look at AC Milan. They've played 3-1-3 in Serie A this season. You know, they're definitely a team on the up. You know, I don't think they've even qualified for the Champions League for 6 or so years. So they're very much a new team. You know, everybody sees Milan as the name, a little bit like you see Arsenal and you think of a good, strong team. But when you actually look at the players there, it's not the Milan that's in our heads. It's not Pirlo, Kaká, Shevchenko and Seedorf anymore. So they're very much a team that we should beat. They're in the 4th pot for a reason. You know, they've lost Donnarumma, arguably their best player. You know, they've got players like Fikayo Tomori, who is decent, but you know, he couldn't get into the Chelsea team, and they've got some pretty average centre backs, in my opinion, in that team as well. So definitely a team we should be beating at home. Get off to a really good start. We've then got Porto, who we've had a lot of success against in the knockout stages in recent years as well, and Sporting Lisbon won the Portuguese league, so they're not even the strongest Portuguese team at the minute either. So yeah, it's going to be us and Atletico. I think we play them back to back in game week 3 and 4. So as long as we avoid defeat in both of those, and maybe win one and lose one, you'd expect to go through. But you say the group of death. I think yes, in terms of there's not really anyone in there like a Sheriff or someone that you've never heard of. So it looks like a strong group, and every game is a glamorous tie. But in terms of the group of death, you look at some of the other ones. There's the Real Madrid, Inter, and Shakhtar. I think have been grouped together again. Not easy to pick a 2 out of that. That was quite a close group last season. And some of the other groups, when you've got PSG and City and Chelsea, Juventus, it's getting to the point now where really it doesn't really matter if you win the group or come second. You could win the group and get PSG, or you could come second and get the winner of one of those silly groups where nobody's in. So as long as we do the job, get the 3 points against Milan, and like you say, Steve, if we get 12 points, we're going to go through in second. So it's more than doable for me. Yeah.
100%. Rack, Athletic Madrid. Thoughts on that, because they are reigning La Liga champions. They have added Rodrigo de Paul, of the most notable signing in the summer. Obviously, they've let Saul leave, which was bizarre considering 2 years ago he signed a 6-year deal for 230k a week, and seems to be the sort of cornerstone what they were going to build their club on. That's a very real threat, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Atletico, good team, and they will pose problems for us, especially tactically when we play at Anfield. But I still back Liverpool to win and to beat them and to win the group. I think we're the better team if we play to our potential. And although they have got a degree of European pedigree, it's not a patch on what we've achieved. And look, I think Chelsea beat them handily last year. They are better, but I think Chelsea of last season and Liverpool of this season are at least on a par, if not better. I think we're better than Chelsea of last season. I think we're better than Chelsea of this season. So I expect us to win the group.
I love that, mate. That's a brilliant positive outlook. Just before we close, guys, I just want to draw attention to something that's happening. Take the ticker off. You can see at the bottom of the screen, there's an image there called Flip Flam. So Grounded Football and Flip Flam are working together. Now, what Flip Flam is a predictor game. It's free of charge. There's no charge to download it. You raise up your coins by guessing Liverpool scorers, Liverpool goals, Liverpool's assists, all throughout the Champions League. There'll be other things. We're running a competition for 4 to 6 games called Grounded for Liverpool for this pod. And the person that comes out at the top of the league at the end of that will win a retro football shirt supplied for by Flip Fam and myself. So please jump on the site, or alternatively go and have a look on my Twitter feed. I've actually posted the invite today, so just click on the invite, download it. It's good fun. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything. Doug, you've been playing it for a couple of months now. What are your thoughts on it?
I really enjoy it. I think it's a good way to get the community together. So I would highly recommend it, and it's very easy to use as well. Gives you the option to sign in through Facebook or Gmail
Google.
as well. So
Yeah.
it's a very good app, and I would highly recommend it to anybody.
So if you want that green and white checkered away shirt, the Robbie Fowler blonde-haired goal against Manchester United, where he leathered it past Schmeichel into the top corner and then bounced off Gary Neville and finished the second one. That's the shirt I'd get if I was. Even though I win it, guys, I'm not going to take the shirt. Whoever gets it will be second place. So, Adam, Rack, if you haven't got it, you know what to do after this pod finishes. Retweet the things that I put out for it, please, guys, because we're both speaking about doing some stuff in the future because where we can probably do some work with local charities around the football club. We're going to launch a sub channel for Grounded Football at some point, and if it grows as quickly as First 11 did, any monetary for the first 12 months, once you hit 1,000 followers, will be donated to charity. So it's not about that. It's about bringing the community together and spending time with people like yourselves and talking to you guys. So that's Flip Fam. Next week, we're going to do a little league table and have a look at where it is. We're going to see where Doug is on the league table. And I'll invite guests to ridicule him if he's nowhere to be seen on the league table. How's you go? How are you doing? Where are you in the overall league table, Doug? What position are you in at the moment?
I'm honestly not sure.
You don't know. See, that's not good, is it? That tells you he's not confident, doesn't it?
I don't really look at the league table, in all honesty. I just play for the predictions, in all honesty. I don't really look at any league tables. I think the last time I checked, I was maybe 76th or something. So yeah, need to do a lot better for sure.
And you need to do really well on the grounded one, mate, and try and win the football shirt. And you can wear it on one of the pods if you win it then, can't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Guys, before we go, just tell us where we can find you and what you're up to, Adam. I know you've had a little bit of time out. So by all means, buddy, tell us where we can find you, what you're up to.
Yeah, so you've got the two Twitter handles to follow for me, at the South Scouse and at the Red Sea Pod. And then obviously on YouTube, all our stuff's at the Red Sea Podcast. So we do a Fab Four preview for every game with Stephen, Courtney and James and myself. And we also do Red Sea full time. So straight after the game, we do a match reaction over on LFC Day Trippers. So yeah, definitely catch them out coming up. Milan, Palace as well. So lots to look forward to.
And if you haven't already, drop on their YouTube channel and watch Adam, sometimes Ian Young and Thiago's father do the tier lists. We're up to what we up to next time, centre forwards.
We've got to do three parts for the strikers because there's literally so many to get through. But yeah, there's an international break in October and November, so I'm hoping we can get back to it and round it off really.
And then we're going to do managers, and then we're going to finish with an ultimate team. We're going to take all of the goats. We're going to take all of the goats because that's what we call them.
And we're going
to come up with a squad. And do you know what? I'll be gutted when it's done because it's been a bit of a journey, hasn't it?
It's been great, isn't it?
And it's really cool. Check it out, guys. It's good fun. Doug, what have you got coming on late this week, mate? What are you up to?
I just Champions League's coming back, so I've got a group stage prediction out today. Need to get my match day 1 predictions out as well. But yeah, just mainly predictions really. I'm giving it a bit of a break for the live streaming. I think probably my next live stream probably Thursday, and then probably Friday for the Friday LFC focus. But yeah, come and check me out at the Dugout Football channel.
I mean, to be fair, Doug, you're on Twitter streams more than the Twitter logo, aren't you? So you know you put your hours in, don't you, mate? So
yeah, I definitely am, mate. I definitely am.
No, it's all good, mate. And again, please drop onto both of those guys' YouTube channels and subscribe. There's good content in there. Look, I've said this many times. Podcasting is a community, and it's a community where we look after each other, where we grow together, and we enjoy all of this stuff. It's really cool talking to lots of Liverpool fans. We have a very varied panel list every week. I don't think we've had one person appear on here twice in 6 weeks, which is really good. And obviously, Adam, it's your first time on, and we'll definitely have you back, pal.
Thank you.
But go and check out both Adam and Doug's stuff. And if you really fancy a late night, you can join Rack on a Twitter space till 4 o'clock in the morning with 719 other people all shouting at each other. I've got to be honest with you. I started on the space. I've avoid it like the plague, mate. It is one bizarre place these days, mate.
It's a bit wild sometimes. It's wild out there at 4 o'clock in the morning on talking football. But actually, I mean, a lot of the guys on there who I've got to know quite well over the last few months, we tend to do more kind of chilled out spaces as well. So it's not all kind of crazy football talk. So yeah, I think it's worth checking out at the very least, see whether it's for you. I'll probably do a couple of bits on the terrace later on in the week, and yeah, do Let's Talk EPL with Niall. We do Liverpool show on Thursday. Do a show on Usman Talks with my friend Steve over there, and on Friday evenings, and that's about it really. And here obviously, and I'm on Twitter at Raxing1.
Cool. Right, guys. Thanks very much. What we'll say is, it's really, really good to get you guys on. So, obviously, you two guys join me every week. What we're going to do next week is we're going to have another open mic session. But what I want people to do is come with questions. We're going to have a bit of a Q&A next week. So when you come, Rack and Doug, come with 5 or 6 questions that you could just throw at anyone in the room. So hopefully we'll have 5 guests and ask those 2 guys to come as well, because it is easy to talk about games and stuff, but it's also good to understand people's depth of knowledge and what things excite them about the club and who their favourite players were and what their favourite games were, and it changes the format a little bit. And one final thing to say, it's just come to me now, is before we go, guys, the person who sets up all of this, her name is the Devil's Avocado, Rachel. Please go and follow her. She's running a YouTube channel on things that are really important out there in the world, like grooming and social stuff. Really important, informative podcast that she's running that will open your eyes and help people to understand what's going on in the world. It's a really harrowing thing to talk about, but she's doing it, and she's doing it, with her chest. So fair play to her. She's really positive about it and really focused. And I think there's a lot of people who can learn an awful lot from somebody like that. So I want to give that a shout out before we finish. So that's us, an hour and 15 minutes. That's flown. Really enjoyed it. Thanks for coming on, guys. And I'll see you again shortly.